Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel. I'm going to share with you perspective from an XRP chart analyst who has a pretty darn good track record, if you ask me. And he says, and this is a quote, XRP reached the end of its healthy consolidation, end quote. Now, why might he be saying that, and why should we take it seriously? I'm going to give you a lot of really good reasons, especially based on where we are in the market cycle and what's happening on a macro scale. Absolutely. And so, and I've been highlighting this, especially in recent days. Tons of analysts, despite the uncertainty in recent days and the volatility and the up and down, whips on it's back and forth a bit, and the concern that XRP could drop temporarily below $2, I've been highlighting that. It's possible that could happen. Wouldn't be the end of the world if it happens. But there have been tons of analysts who say, regardless of whether or not that happens, we are at the end of the point where XRP can stay in this range. Something is going to happen. It cannot flutter about here endlessly forever. Like it just can't. I said the same thing about XRP last year, especially in the months leading up to the point where it finally broke out. I said, guys, look, XRP cannot and will not flutter about sideways in this very tight price range forever. It simply cannot. And there were tons of analysts that were calling for XRP to break out leading up to the election. And those analysts who predicted that, and there were many, I highlighted as many of them as I could find, they were right. All of them saw the same thing. Nearly 7 years of consolidation for XRP. And that bitch blew. Oh yes, it ran hard. XRP ripped to the upside and is now the best performing top 100 coin since the election. And so now these analysts are saying, we're living in that moment again. So nobody can know for sure when that burst will be, whether it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter. But we're roughly speaking living in that time where it should happen based on what they're seeing in the charts, also based on historic precedent. And so the neat thing is you could wake up any day, check the price chart, and it actually is just running. Even if by the time you're watching this, and I acknowledge there's a chance that the market's pulling back, but that's just short-term price action. I'm not going to freak out about that if that happens, nor should anyone, frankly. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, here's a post that I first shared with you almost 1 year ago. This is from chart analyst Crypto Michael. He accurately called the bottom of this market cycle with Bitcoin bottoming, whatever it was, $15,000 or $16,000. Accurately called that. He also, and he got yelled at a lot for this, but go figure, it's XRP, and there are a lot of people with XRP derangement syndrome. He accurately predicted XRP breaking out this market cycle, and he gave logical reasons as to why that was going to happen. And so here's a post from Crypto Michael almost a year ago, July 16th, 2024. He said, XRP historic breakout incoming. In all my 7 years of trading crypto, I have never seen a 7-year-long bull pennant. We might be about to witness one of the most significant breakouts in crypto history. And you know what, folks? We did. That was one of the most significant breaks to the upside in crypto history, what we saw in November, ultimately leading to a new XRP all-time high on January 16th and finally peaking at $3.40. But we're not done this cycle, don't get me wrong. The reason I'm sharing this with you again is because he just reposted that. So that's what the chart looked like back then. Here's what it looks like now, almost a year later. And look at this, mind you, before I flip to the next tab. So many analysts were sharing basically the same thing. They would all draw these trend lines going back to 2017 and be like, guys, look, we're getting in an increasingly tightening range here. And before you hit the apex, this thing's going to break out. That's effectively the argument that I saw from all of these chart analysts. And even analysts that weren't regularly paying attention to XRP, like, oh, I haven't checked that thing in a while. They checked it for the first time in years. Like, oh my God. And then it was so fun to find those. And I shared them with them on the channel, with you on the channel. When I found those analysts that weren't paying attention to XRP, but then they looked at it and then they recognized what was about to happen. Those were fun videos to make. And there were a number of them. A number of people figured it out, and they were just being honest, like, guys, this thing's gonna run. This thing's gonna run, and it did. But it's not done yet. So here's what it looks like almost a year later. Look at that glorious green candle. He was right. All of the analysts that were calling for this obviously were correct, and there was historic precedent to believe that this was going to happen. And so again, he reshared that post from July of last year, and he's got an update now. Similar message. He's got a good track record here. Worth listening to. XRP USD chart here. He says, XRP has been consolidating for 7 months since it pumped 700% after breaking out of the 7-year pennant, which I predicted. It has now reached the end of its healthy consolidation period. The next major move will begin soon and should align with Bitcoin breaking the 8-year line. And so he's making yet another firm prediction here. This thing melts faces. Price discovery. He does believe that indeed is coming. And that makes sense. For each of the last 2 market cycles, XRP had one big jump, moved sideways about half a year, and then it had its second final leg up. So we still got one of those bad boys to look forward to. So let me give you some more reasons to believe that by a lot, that is the most probable thing to occur. And it's because the conditions for a bull market are intact right this very second, and the entire crypto asset class moves in tandem. XRP has never gone on anything resembling an impressive, sustainable run unless we were in a bull market and the whole market was going. That's always been the case for XRP. I'm not expecting that to change anytime in the short term, certainly not for this market cycle. So if XRP is going to have that second leg up, well, you better hope that the conditions are right. And the good news is, oh, they are. Let me drop some science on you. I want to share with you this thread from chart analyst Tech Dev. He shared this with his 531,000 followers. And I've been following this guy. I'm not sure when I first started, but I believe I've been following him for well over half a decade at this point. His large follower account, well deserved, I would say. He's just a really data-driven type of guy, and he's dropping the science here. And I want to share this with you. I want as many people as possible to know this. And so here's what he wrote. Will liquidity lead the way? I worked with Unchained to break my latest newsletter out from the paywall and publish Bitcoin's next parabolic move, a report where I analyze how global liquidity and the business cycle are aligning in a way that has historically preceded major bull runs. Folks, that's right. What is happening now is what happened in the past, right before things got completely bananas. So it makes sense to be excited, even if by the time you're watching this, XRP's lower and the market's tanking. That's short-term price action. That stuff happens in bull markets. That's very normal. That is not something to be fearful of. Anyway, TechDev continues. When global central banks ease policy, whether through rate cuts, balance sheet expansion, or other instruments of quantitative easing, liquidity grows. And so, folks, when you hear quantitative easing, just think money printer go burr, because it's cold. Money printer go burr. Seriously, that's it. People, businesses, institutions have more money, and as a result, what do you think happens? Well, he actually cites it in this thread. So he says again, liquidity grows, right? Under these circumstances, he says that increase must flow somewhere, and increasingly, it finds its way into scarce, high beta assets like Bitcoin. Well, ding, 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 spot on, winner, winner, chicken dinner, my friends. That is exactly what I've been screaming to anybody who will listen. That is exactly correct. As liquidity increases, that means, again, people, businesses, institutions all have more money, and they got to decide to put it somewhere. So as this happens, as the funds are available, the appetite for risk-on assets increases. That's what happens. So when he says here again, the increase must flow somewhere. Yes, it must. It absolutely must. And he says increasingly it's finds its way into scarce assets, basically. And he cited Bitcoin here. The entire crypto asset class moves in tandem, folks. So money printer go burr because it's cold. And then what happens? The money flows into risk-on assets. And we were here first, folks. That is correct. And that's how you get crazy multiplier effects of just boatloads of money flowing into assets that are scarce that you already own, like XRP. That's exactly it. That is exactly why. And he is citing it spot on. I wish more people knew this, which is why I'm just trying to beat this thing to death so you guys get this and understand why it doesn't make sense to be fearful here. Even if in the short term we go down, it does not matter. Tariffs doesn't matter. War in the Middle East doesn't matter. I'm not saying it in general it doesn't matter. I'm saying for the markets it doesn't matter, right? And it doesn't. It just doesn't. Anyway, he continues here. Check this out. In Q1 2025, global liquidity began rising again after 2 years of compression. Folks, I got to pause there already. Who else has been screaming that? I mean, I have, but where did I learn that from? I learned that first from the folks over at Global Macro Investor in Real Vision. That would be Raoul Pal, former Goldman Sachs executive, who is an XRP holder, by the way. There's a reason he's got like over 1 million followers on X, quite literally. And also Julian Battel, who works with them. And they've been screaming this to anybody who will listen, and I will listen, and then I share their message because they are right, and everyone should know this in crypto. But global liquidity, it's been increasing for the first time in 2 years, and they predict, by the way, the folks over at Global Macro Investor, they predicted that it was going to increase, and I shared that in Q4 of last year because they've got a great hit rate, right? And so I shared that, and they were right, and Bitcoin's still following it, and the asset class moves in tandem. What do you think that means for XRP? Number go up, my friends. Anyway, TechDev then says, central banks around the world have begun to turn dovish and financial conditions have been easing. This expansion is already showing up in risk assets. You don't say. Bitcoin's recent strength is tracking this inflection. No way. Central banks turning dovish, financial conditions easing, liquidity up, and then the expansion, it's going into risk assets, like I've been saying? No way. No. Yes, he is spot on right here. And there's more. He shared this chart. You've got Bitcoin on top. You've got liquidity global M2 specifically in the middle. And then you've got the business cycle, which is copper/gold MACD. And so check this out. And you can see the shift here. That's actually fun to take a look at this. He says the copper-gold ratio offers a complementary lens. Copper signals growth expectations. Gold signals fear. When the ratio rises, it often marks a shift from risk off to risk on and a key business cycle inflection. It bottomed in early 2025 and is now stabilizing just as it did ahead of past bull runs. So look at where we are right now. Look at where we are in this business cycle. Look at previous cycles. What happened? That's right. It did stabilize. So you should be seeing exactly that right now if the thesis is correct. And so look what happened in previous cycles. And it happened at the same time liquidity was doing what it was doing, increasing, and you can see Bitcoin lagged behind by 10 to 12 weeks, and then it ripped, and then the entire crypto asset class went together, including XRP. Even last cycle, XRP played along. We just didn't see a new all-time high because it was being artificially suppressed because of the asshat pricks over at the SEC, goddamn them. But still, it moved. It did move in tandem. You'll love to see it. Again, it's just more data, more confluence, and more of the same. History rhymes with itself, folks. It just does. And then he wrote here, these signals come together in what I call the liquidity-weighted business cycle. That model aligns across past cycles, and the setup in 2025 is no exception. So this is why it makes sense to be very excited. And XRP, I firmly believe, will be one of the top performers of the cycle. It already, like right now, it already is, obviously. But I believe that it will continue to, and by the end of the cycle, if it's not number one of the top 100, although it could be, if it's not, it's going to be damn close. When this is all said and done, XRP will have made Bitcoin its little bitch, and it will have made Ethereum its tiny little baby back biatch. That's exactly what's going to happen. Mark my words on that, damn it. Mark my words on that, damn it. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And we're just going to have a killer time observing it. Because we were right, despite what all those toxic Bitcoin maximalists had to say, I just don't give a damn. It's good to be an XRP holder. It's great to be an XRP holder. There's never been a better time to be an XRP holder so far as I'm concerned. And the best is yet ahead. So yeah, when Crypto Michael says XRP has reached the end of its healthy consolidation, which is his direct quote, I buy it. And it doesn't mean it's today, tomorrow, next week. It could be a little bit further off. But it's the same type of thing that he was saying, and also I was saying in the months leading up to the election, especially, is like, guys, I don't know for sure where the bottom is, but we're living in that moment where we're basically there. And we were. Same thing again here. It's just consolidation, and then we'll get the pop. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.